We continue now at the top of Daf Dalet Amud Aleph from Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 4a. And the previous Amud, Reish Lakish had said that we learn out the separation of 7 days before Yom Kippur for the Kohen Gadol from Moshe Rabbeinu's separation before he went on Har Sinai. And the problem is that by Moshe Rabbeinu it was actually 6 days, and here it's 7 days. So the Gemara answers, our Mishnah follows Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, who says the 7-day separation is letumas beso. It's in order in case there's a situation of tumah. Rashi over here explains, Shemim yizokek leishto v'tira dam b'shas bia. We're afraid that if he's with his wife and she sees blood during the time of the bia, v'nimtza tamei shivas yomim, then he's going to be tamei for 7 days. Kimishvat boel nida. That's the halacha by a boel nida, by one who has relations with a nida. V'lo yachol la'avod b'yom kippurim. Then he won't be able to serve on Yom Kippur, and that's why Reish Lakish says we do a separation of 7 days instead of 6 days. So Amar le Rabbi Yochanan le Reish Lakish. So Rabbi Yochanan says to Reish Lakish, B'shlama l'didi di'alfina mi-miluim. It's good according to me that I learned from the miluim, just like there was a separation over there of Aaron for 7 days, so too on Yom Kippur. Hainu detanya, that's why it says in the Brisa, Zev v'zev ma'azin olav kol shiva. By both the case of Yom Kippur and the case of Parah Aduma, remember Rabbi Yochanan's learning both cases from the situation of the miluim. So the halach is you actually do a hazah, you sprinkle them with the mechatos every day of the 7 days. Mikol chatos shahayu sham, and they do that from every kind of Parah Aduma that they have. Rashi says that every Parah Aduma they would leave a little bit. It would be lemishmeris, it would be kept and protected. And Rashi also says that he heard that the afer of the Parah Aduma lo kala. Rashi says here, Mikol para v'para hayu nosim ktsas lemishmeris mino afer b'cheil kach shaninu b'Meseches para v'ani shamati afer para shel Moshe lo kala. I heard, Rashi says, that the afer of the Parah Aduma of Moshe Rabbeinu, it never finished. So in any case, it makes sense, Rabbi Yochanan says, according to me, that they would do this hazah every day of the 7 days. Why? Because that would be learned out from the miluim. They did a sprinkling by the miluim as well. But according to you, Reish Lakish, that you learned by the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, you learned it from Har Sinai. Hazah b'Sinai mi havoy. Was there any sprinkling at Har Sinai? So Amar Lei, so Reish Lakish says back to Rabbi Yochanan v'letaimech, but according to you, minicha, is it really good? B'miluim dam hachamayim. By the miluim, the sprinkling, the pasuk says that the sprinkling that was done by on Aaron was blood, and here you're sprinkling the mechatos, which is water. So the Gemara says, "Hello, kasha, that's not difficult." The Tani Rabbi Chia, because Rabbi Chia taught, "Nichnesu mayim tachas dam." In our case, the water comes as a substitute for the blood. But again, he continues his question and he says, Rabbi Yochanan says to Reish Lakish, according to you, you learned from Har Sinai. Again, was there any hazah by Har Sinai? So he answers, Amar Lei, says to him, Ma'ila bi'alma, that was just an extra chumrah that they did. You're right. There's no real source that has to be done either by the Parah Aduma or by Yom Kippurim, but as a certain cover, either by the Parah Aduma, it's for an extra Maila, an extra Chumrah. By Yom Kippurim, Rashi says it's for the glory, for the honor, because you're entering the Machan Shechina, so you do the sprinkling with the Mechatos, but that's all it is. It's not really learned out. And the Gemara now continues, Tanya Kivasi de Rabbi Yochanan, Tanya Kivasi de Reish Lakish. We have a brisa like Rabbi Yochanan, and we have a brisa like Reish Lakish. Tanya Kivasi de Rabbi Yochanan, we have a brisa like Rabbi Yochanan, as follows, the brisa says, Bezos Yavo Aaron el HaKodesh, it says that with this, Aaron will enter the Kodesh. Ba'mesha Amr Be'inyan, in other words, he has to enter with the same thing that we already discussed in another topic. Ma'hi be'inyan de miluim. What do we mean be'inyan? We mean by the miluim. In other words, we're learning out, in this case, by Yom Kippur, we're learning from the miluim. Uma amor be'inyan de miluim. And what does it say by the miluim? Aaron piresh shiva v'shimesh yom echad. By the miluim, Aaron separated for 7 days and served for 1 day. Moshe Masar lo kal shiva kedei lechancho be'avoda, and Moshe was given over to Aaron for all 7 days to help prepare him for the avoda. V'af ledoros, and the same thing is true for all generations, meaning on Yom Kippur. Kohen Gadol pore shiva meshamesh yom echad. The Kohen Gadol separates for 7 days and he serves for 1 day. Ushnei talmidei chachamim mitalmidav shel Moshe, and 2 talmidei chachamim who are from the students of Moshe Rabbeinu, lehafuke tzidukim, to exclude the tzidukim. We don't give him tzidukim. Moser lo, they give him these 2 talmidei chachamim, kol shiva, for all 7 days of separation, kedei lechancho ba'avoda, in order to prepare him for the avoda. Mikan amru, from here they said, Shivas yamim kodim Yom Kippurim, 7 days before Yom Kippur. Mafrishin Kohen Gadol mibeso lelishkas parhedrin. We separate the Kohen Gadol from his house to the chamber of the parhedrin. Uchashem shemafrishin Kohen Gadol, and just like we separate the Kohen Gadol, kach mafrishin Kohen asorif esapara, so too we separate the Kohen who burns the Parah Aduma, lelishka shal pnei habira tzvona mizracha, to the chamber that's in the northeast. V'yechad zeh v'yechad zen. In both situations, mazin olav kol shiva, we sprinkle upon him all 7 days. Mikol chatos shayusham, from all the various mechatos that are there, as we said before. V'im tomar b'miluim dam hachamayim. And if you're going to ask that by the miluim they used blood, and by the days over here, the Parah Aduma and Yom Kippur, we're using water, we're using the mechatos, amrit, so we will answer, nichnesu mayim tachas dam, that the water will be as a substitute for the blood. V'yomer, the pasuk says, kasherosa v'yom hazeh tzivu Hashem lasos lechaper aleichem. Pasuk says, just like you're doing today by the miluim, by the 8th day of the miluim, so too you will do in the future, meaning, lasos elu maisa para. The word lasos refers to the Parah Aduma, lechaper elu maisa Yom Kippurim, and the word lechaper refers to Yom Kippurim. So that's the brisa that supports this position of Rabbi Yochanan that we learn out from the miluim. So the Gemara asks, "V'hai bezos miboyle legufe." But the word bezos, this whole drasha is coming from bezos. But don't we need bezos anyway, just for the context of the pasuk? Bepar ben bakar lechatos v'ayil liola. The idea is that he has to bring in the karbanos. He has to bring the bull, and he has to bring the ayil for a karbanola, the bull for a chatos, and the ayil for an ola. So how are you learning bezos as a drasha to reference the fact that he has to do the separation? So Amri, so they answer, if all it meant was to bring the proper carbon, it could have said bazeh or be'ela. My bezos, what does it mean when it uses the term bezos? Shamat minot tarti. You see from this, both ideas. Number one, that you need to bring the karbanos, and number two, that you got to do it similar to the miluim with a separation. And Rashi over here explains what's strange about the word bezos. My bezos, lashon nikeva, that's a feminine term. Parva ayil dechsivi basrei lav nikeva sayin. But the karbanos that we're talking about are not nikevas; they're not female. So why does it use the word bezos? And so that's why the Gemara's answer is, it's again to teach you about the separation that we learn from the miluim. And the Gemara continues analyzing the brisa. My v'omer. Why is there a v'omer in the brisa? Why do you bring that additional pasuk at the end of the brisa? It says v'omer kasher asa b'yom hazeh. You just proved it. What do you need another pasuk to prove the exact same thing? So the Gemara says you might think that only the first Yom Kippur you need to do separation, just like the miluim, it was just like one-time thing. But maybe you would think it doesn't apply to every Yom Kippur. Inami, or maybe you'll say, maybe the very first Kohen Gadol in history needs to do separation. But other Kohanim Gedolim don't need to do it. So that's Tashma, Kasher Asa v'chulu. That's why we bring this additional pasuk, Kasher Asa, to say that it's Ledoros. It applies every Yom Kippur. And the Gemara now brings the brisa like Reish Lakish, Tanya Kivase de Reish Lakish. We have a brisa like Reish Lakish. Moshe Ola ba'anan, v'niskasa ba'anan, v'niskadish ba'anan. Moshe went up to Har Sinai in the cloud. He covered himself in the cloud. He was made holy in the cloud. He was sanctified in the cloud. Kedei lakabel Torah liYisrael b'kedusha. All of that was in order to receive the Torah for Klal Yisrael in holiness. Shenemar, like it says, Vayishkon kvod Hashem al Har Sinai. It says that the glory of Hashem rested on Har Sinai. So the brisa now brings the machlokas tanoim. The first Tana says this whole episode of the Kvod Hashem resting on Har Sinai, it happened after the Aseres HaDibros. This was the beginning of the 40 days of Moshe Rabbeinu getting the Luchos. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Haglili, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Rabbi Akiva says, Vayishkon Kvod Hashem me Rosh Chodesh. The Vayishkon Kvod Hashem, the Kvod Hashem that was resting on Har Sinai here, is talking about from Rosh Chodesh, meaning before the Aseres HaDibros. Rashi over here explains. First, with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Haglili, Rashi says, Zem Maisa Kilomar means as follows. Maybe you'll say this pasuk over here, which says Vayechaseyu, is not referring to covering of Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's not a separation of Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe you'll say that the 6 days over here is talking about from Rosh Chodesh until the time they came to Sinai and had Matan Torah, had the Aseres HaDibros. And it's not even talking about a separation from Moshe Rabbeinu. Because on those 6 days he would go up early in the morning, he would go up and come down and warn them to separate min ha'isha from their wives, u'mitzvahs hagbala, and he would warn them about hagbala, meaning to stay away from Har Sinai during the Aseres HaDibros. Zos lo tomar, don't say this, says Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Because this whole set of psukim is talking after the Aseres HaDibros. It's at the beginning of the 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu is entering the Machane Shechina to be with Hashem, lekabel haluchos, to receive the luchos. Later on, the Gemara will explain how does Rabbi Yossi Aglili really know that this whole 6 days took place after the Aseret HaDibros. Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Rabbi Akiva Omer Kodem Aseret HaDibros Haya. This episode takes place before the Aseret HaDibros. V'shisha Yomim Halalohim Shisha Yomim Shem Rosh Chodesh Ad Yom Matan Torah. The 6 days over here is the days of Rosh Chodesh until Matan Torah. Uvashvi Kiblam, and it was on the 7th day of that they had the Aseret HaDibros. Umoshe v'chol Yisrael Omnim Lekabel Aseret HaDibros Kedamrin Anochi V'lo Yia Lecha Mipi Agvura Shavanim. Moshe Rabbeinu, all of Klal Yisrael, they all stood to receive the Aseret HaDibros, because we heard the first two of the Aseret HaDibros not from Moshe Rabbeinu but from Mipi Agvura, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yachar kach ola kedei lekabel as haluchos, and then he went up to get the luchos. V'lo haya sham prisha klal. According to Rabbi Akiva, there was no separation at all. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Dalid Amud Beis.